We've been showing you the Brendan Banfield murder trial today. I'm Katie Lusso, and this is body language expert Janine Driver. She's going to be analyzing some of what we saw today when Brendan Banfield took the stand. Just for some context here, a lot of you have been following along, but Brendan Banfield is on trial for murder. Now, he is accused of killing his wife, Christine Banfield, and another man named Joseph Ryan. And today, in a really shocking turn of events, he got up there and took the stand. He was up there for a little less than an hour. And Janine, we heard quite a lot from him. He was asked directly about his relationship with Juliana Peres Magalhães, and he said that it wasn't serious. We do want to play you some clips and have you analyze them for us. And also just want to let everyone know who is watching at home that if you do have questions for Janine, you can text us at 202-895-5599. So why don't we start here? The conversation with Brendan Banfield up there, it was on the defense. He was the one questioning him. So obviously they had some time to go over their conversation beforehand. And I'm sure we will hear the prosecution, who also had a long time to prepare for this, talk to him tomorrow. But today it was really the defense questioning him. And they talked a little bit about the relationship with Christine Banfield, but then it got on to the relationship with Juliana. I want to start though, for the moment John Carroll asks Brendan Banfield if he loved his wife. All right, Janine, so your first reaction to that moment, if you will.
He did eye blocking right here, Katie, which he closed his eyes for a little longer than normal. 10% of our waking life, our eyes are closed. So I blink, all of us, about 1,200 blinks per hour. I mean, that seems like a lot, right? So when we have this long eye blink here, this tends to be connected with deception, or I'm not going to share all the information. So we literally call it eye blocking. Some of the ways that we eye block might be, I put my hand over my eyes, I adjust my baseball hat when people all of a sudden avoid looking at you. We saw similar behavior with Scott Peterson, who was found guilty of killing his wife, Lacey Peterson. Their unborn son, Connor, also did these dramatic eye blocks when asked questions about his relationship with Lacey. So we do see this often in murder trials where someone being accused with murder, who by the way has often ended up being found guilty of murder, I don't even think that makes sense, but that they do make those long eye blocks. I mean, imagine if I said, hey, do you like your job? And you're like,
right.
Do I like my job, right? That's suspicious right out of the gate.
Okay, that hesitation.
Yes.
This is one of the very first questions right up there near the top that he was asked. Do you think that was a harmful moment or a helpful moment for him?
I think that's a harmful moment right out of the gate. I'm just letting you know, I'm not hearing anything through my headset here. So hopefully this will come through. But I think that hurts him in this moment because it comes across as inauthentic, right? When we see it, we think, wait a minute, there's a problem here. There's a problem there.
All right. If we could play the next clip for you, this is when he starts being asked about his relationship with Juliana and when that relationship, again, Juliana is the family's au pair who he is accused of coming up with this elaborate plan with to kill his wife and another man. So it's the conversation about when that relationship started. Do you hear that? Okay.
I guess the relationship started as professional in October of 2021 when she came to be a au pair or a nanny for our family.
Okay, so your first reaction to watching this portion, and I'm sure you're focused on his eyes, right?
Yes, I'm looking at his face and I'm looking for congruence with what he's saying. Does the body language match what he's saying? And here it does. So he's saying, hey, it started off professional. I've had au pairs for decades.
Right.
I had 24 au pairs total over 20 years. And I will say it always starts professional. This is not the first case where a host dad ended up becoming intimate with the au pair. This happens more than you might think. Now here, his body language was congruent, right? So I'm looking for, does the body language for here, he was nodding his head yes while he was thinking, does it come a half a beat before the words, Katie, and you at home? Because when someone is lying, watch if I said to you, I go, call me. The gesture comes a half beat before the call. Imagine if I said, call me. So when I'm looking for the truth, Katie, and you at home, I'm looking for, does the hand gesture, does the body language happen a beat before? It's the difference between seeing a really great actor and a bad actor. They used to have on Saturday Night Live, not gonna do it, can't do it, imitating George W. Bush. And it was robotic. And the reason it was so funny is the gesture, not gonna do it, can't do it, came after the words. So we're looking for, which we had here. Before he answers, he's answering, he nods his head, yes, I had a relationship with her. And that gesture happens first.
Yeah, and then you can see it there again.
Here, watch.
So which is the part that really captures you?
Did I have a gesture, a relationship?
So yeah, when you're seeing this, you're feeling.
Yes, well, see where his eyes just went up there? This is also indicative of someone recalling a memory. So he's visually remembering. Now he's down left. Down left, when our eyes go down left, is internal dialogue. I guess she was an au pair. I mean, you know, like a nanny for our family. He's in internal dialogue when he went there. So right here, we have no problems right out of the gate. Right here, we're like, okay, so far so good, which is what you want. You want to get the baseline early on when you get someone on the stand. At least someone like me wants that. So I can see where, wait a minute, his baseline just changed. Yeah. Right? So we know that these things are truthful. Right?
Okay, so you saw a clear difference between that and the previous.
Yes. Oh, yes, 100%. Well, you can see the eye blocking, what we had earlier, you know, is these long blocks is indicative of someone holding something back.
All right, I want to play you the next clip. It's about how the relationship started between him and Juliana, and he's talking about the moments their relationship shifted from being professional into no longer professional, and I believe Juliana called it sexual or physical in nature. So let's take a listen.
In August of 2022.
Okay. Describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how that happened.
So, in August, Juliana and I were home alone. I had to work on both Saturday and Sunday. So I believe the original day was a Friday. Christine and were in New York, and Juliana started texting me while I was preparing food in the kitchen.
So what he's referring to is that first initial moment, not when the first time he met her, because the first time he met her was in October of 2021, but this is the moment that it's sort of transitioned into not being a professional relationship anymore. Your thoughts on that part?
Yes, well, right out of the gate, Katie, we see him leak contempt on his left side of his face. Contempt is moral superiority. It's a little smirk. People often say it's the cat ate the canary grin. I'll tell you where it pops up right here. Watch. Look on the right side of your screen, the left side of his face. Okay? It was right at the beginning of that statement.
Okay.
Wait 1 second. So at the very beginning, here, see there, that pull in right there on the left side of his face, that's contempt. Contempt is moral superiority. It's the only unilateral expression that shows up on our face. There's 7 universal emotions we have: happiness, sadness, fear, surprise, anger, contempt, and disgust. Contempt, moral superiority, shows up on one side of our face. Guess who does it? People who are powerful liars. So we saw this with Casey Anthony. We've seen this with Jussie Smollett, who stages hate crime back in Chicago. We've seen this with Ted Bundy. So we see oftentimes people being accused of some type of crime who they think they're better than other people will leak that contempt. It's like, I could do whatever the heck I wanted. I was an agent for the IRS, right? So it's that smugness. And anytime you see someone do that, it's like this. Right? It's I'm better than you, better than your ideas. You'll often see that with highly educated people who are around people that they might think are less than them. Or powerful people, again, they think I'm smarter than you might think.
You know, there's been a lot of conversation about whose idea was it for him to get up on the stand. And you know, Frank Salvato, our legal expert who you met last week, he was talking about how this was likely Brendan's idea. Is that kind of what you're taking away from this moment?
I love you, Katie, so much. I was literally going to say this next, that it wouldn't surprise me if this was Brendan's idea. Okay. Why? Because contemptuous people are all about the ego, all about significance, right? So I'm an important person. I think he's so smug that he thinks by him being on here, it's on the stand, it's going to somehow help him. We saw the same thing with not only Scott Peterson, but I don't know if you remember because you're younger than me, Katie, but there was a guy, a cop named Drew Peterson, who's also in jail for killing his third wife, Kathleen Salvio. His fourth wife has gone missing. We still don't know where she is. Stacy Peterson was her name. And same thing, what he would do, he'd go out and get donuts and coffee for the police officers that are outside of his house. This smugness. Drew Peterson went on the Today Show and was interviewed by Matt Lauer. And same thing with Scott Peterson. So you'll get these egotistical people who have this strong need of significance, and they will often say, throw me in front of the camera. It's that smugness. It's that smugness.
Interesting. All right, let's talk about the next clip. This clip is going to be about him talking about how Juliana initiated the conversation of what was described as being inappropriate. So it's her talking about her dating life, and I want you to listen to this one specific part where he explains what about her dating life really stuck out to him. So let's take a listen.
Juliana showed me quite a few screenshots of her dating app. I believe it was Hinge, and the people that were in the Hinge app all had similar names to me. Their names were Brendan and Brandon and Brennan, and these were people that she had matched with on the app.
All right, so a lot there, but when you're watching it, what are you thinking?
Well, he starts off fine, but then all of a sudden when he starts telling us, oh, the names were similar to my name, the Brendan and Brandon and Brent, as he starts saying that, we see a smile there. And that smile, Katie, and you at home, is what's called duping delight. Duping delight is, again, it's like this excessive pride. And we saw that in many, many cases where someone is being charged with murder. You'll see this little smirk that comes on their face. And by the way, he just leaked contempt there again as you're watching the screen to the left side of his face.
The same clip.
Look,
again.
You can see the smile. So what I like to do is I like to watch the footage without the sound first. And then I'll notice, and I'll be like, that's interesting. Why is he smiling there? Is he talking about something that's happy? Because he's certainly sharing something that makes him happy. So as he's sharing, oh, my au pair is showing me all like her Hinge profile, these names that are similar to mine, he leaks this little smile like she came after me. You know, like she's flirting with me.
How do you think the jury is reacting to seeing him smiling up there when he's on trial for murder of his own wife?
Oh my gosh, I think this is going to backfire big time. It's smugness. So this smugness, you're smiling that your au pair is showing you her dating profile with men's names that are similar to yours. This is not going to help him in any way whatsoever. I mean, think about it. Forget about even the fact that there's murder involved. Just the cheating that's involved. So just if he was having an affair on her, I think that the jury would be like, this guy is not even embarrassed that he had a relationship with this young woman from another country. He's smug about it. It will backfire on him. And I would love to, quite frankly, if he's on the stand tomorrow, what I should do is get up, because I live in Fairfax County. I should get over there in the courtroom, and then I could weigh in tomorrow possibly what do I see on the jurors when he takes the stand, because that might be really cool. So maybe I'll do that. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, let's stay in touch about that. Back to this though, you know, so after that part of the conversation, part of his testimony, he continues on by talking about how Juliana, you know, he's pushing hard that Juliana initiated this relationship. And he says Juliana followed him upstairs, and the way their house is laid out, his bedroom is one direction, her bedroom is a different. And he says that she followed him into the bedroom. And the next kind of clip that I want to play for you is the part where he explains how Juliana was very scared that Brendan was going to tell Christine. So let's take a listen to that.
She had indicated that she was concerned that I was going to tell Christine, and that she was going to be essentially fired and sent back and lose her job. which I indicated that I wasn't going to tell her.
Okay. Did you tell her anything about what had just happened and what that was?
Yes, I mean, that would be that we were having an affair. I had also indicated to her that I had previous affairs.
Yeah, and so I can tell you he continues on by talking about how Christine knew about at least 2 of those affairs. And he also said that Christine herself was having affairs. So, he's speaking about his wife, who is no longer here, about how she had affairs too, and kind of justifying the behavior. But your thoughts on...
Well, we are seeing that duping delight again. We're seeing that smiling there as he's sharing that information. And he continues to lead contempt, that moral superiority. See the furrowed brows right there? So that, as his furrowed brows come down, this is a little anger. Look, we could see that smile right there. It was almost like a flirty smile when he was talking. Watch there. So that tiny little smile has a huge impact. It is out of place. And when we see duping delight, it's like you fire someone and they smile. There's contempt again on the left side of his face. When you fire someone and they leak that smile, you're like, oh no, are they going to become a Carrie Underwood song and key the side of my truck, right? So it is out of place here. See those little shrugs of his shoulders? That's uncertainty. So when you see a shoulder shrug that's small like that, you want to listen to what are they saying in those moments. What is he uncertain about in that particular moment?
Right. And, the next clip we're going to play for you is the portion that I just kind of mentioned about the affairs and how he says they were both having affairs. Let's take a listen to that and get your thoughts on it.
Yes.
Your previous affairs?
She was aware of at least 2 previous affairs.
Okay. And likewise, were you aware of her affairs?
Yes, I was also aware that she had affairs.
Okay, so he continues on to say that she had affairs, and he was trying to make the point, I believe, that he had told Juliana, listen, this isn't going to be serious. I know you weren't here for some of this, but Juliana testified that she didn't initially think this was going to be serious, but that it did become serious and that it continued on there. But your thoughts?
Yeah, again, this is very interesting for me because he's giving us a lot more data early on, but now he's very succinct here, right? He's saying, yes, she's aware of it. He did nod his head here yesterday, right here a second ago. Maybe, in fact, maybe she was aware of it. It doesn't mean she was happy about it. Maybe she suspected it. This is one of those follow-up questions that I would want to ask. How was she aware of it? What does that mean? Did she suspect it? Did she know and forgive him? Like I need more information here, right? Because what does that mean? It's interesting because Bill Clinton said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Well, what did sexual relations mean, right? So we want to break it down. Everyone has their own language of what something means. And so we want to ask great follow-up questions, which maybe we got, or maybe we'll get tomorrow. I'm not sure, but for sure, I think tomorrow we'll hear some of these follow-up questions. Here, of course, his attorney's not going to unravel and pull at the thread, right? But I want to know, how did she know? When did she know? What happened when she found out? Because if we're showing character and that she was okay, that you can't tell me that she's okay that with her husband having an affair with this young woman that's living in her house, taking care of her baby, right? I mean, that's the anomaly. But I think he's coming across as, yeah, she knew about it, because he's very succinct here with his language. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the next clip for you. He's talking about how there was no plan. So Juliana testified that there was this elaborate plan that she and Brendan came up with, that she said that Brendan came up with this elaborate plan and she was along for the ride. And she said that plan, he came to her with this idea, this concept of getting rid of his wife. And this was in October. So the physical relationship starts in August of 2022. In October of 2022 is when Juliana says this plan came to life. And the plan was to get rid of Christine Banfield. And, it would develop into this other plan to pin it on someone else. But at that point, she said she thought it was a joke. I want you to take a listen to when he is asked by defense attorney John Carroll about that plan.
So, and you're saying 2 months from August to
October.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Was there, in having her come to the range, was there any plan that she was going to back you up on some plan?
I mean, there was no plan at this point when we had gone to the range, there was none of the suspect email account. There was no FetLife account. There was no Telegram messages. None of that existed at the point that we went to the range.
Okay, so one thing that has come up in the comments quite a lot, that sentence about there was no plan at this point. Your thoughts?
Well, exactly. I'm a big wordsmith, and I pay attention to words like that. So at this point, great. The follow-up question is, at what point was the plan? And what does the word plan mean? So I'm very specific on words. Well, what's the plan? Well, the plan to his brain could mean I've already paid someone to come. I already placed the ad for this S&M guy to come over with a knife and some constraints, right? What does the plan mean? That word being so evasive like that, there was no plan in place at this time. So that's a disclaimer, at this time. By the way, he's lacking empathy here, and I took here, the human brain normally encodes violent harm as emotional, right? So when we are emotional, Katie and you at home, and we're sharing, we're looking downright. Right? We talked about this the other day, Katie. I think downright angry. I was downright devastated. So when my eyes go downright, I'm processing through emotion. We're not seeing this here with Brendan. We're seeing what? Down left sometimes, which is internal dialogue. Up sometimes, which is visual recall or visual create. The fact we're not seeing him go downright, this is what it indicates to me. His prefrontal cortex, his higher thinking here, his cognitive part of his brain is what's running the show right here. His cognitive is saying, I'm running the show. This is not based on emotions. Usually, if you regret something that you did, you'll have this emotional plea, right? You'll at least see someone go downright. We don't see it here. This right here is casual tone as he's recounting a little bit of what happened here. The prefrontal cortex is struggling to regulate that amygdala in a normal person. The amygdala is the part that says danger, danger. And so right here, his brain is just running the show. He's not emotional at all. We're not hearing it in his tone and pitch. We're seeing the smiling. When we are emotionally processing trauma like this and we regret the trauma, there's no smiling. If there's any smiling, it's out of embarrassment. Even Nixon, when Nixon said, I say it's the closest he came to a confession, is Nixon in the Watergate interviews. He said, I let down the American people. I let down children who wanted to go into politics. And he smiled. When Nixon smiled, that made sense because he was talking about letting people down. And that smile to me indicated embarrassment. But here, there's nothing he's embarrassed about. He's not saying, I let down my daughter. I let down it's a daughter, right? Yeah, my daughter. I let down, he's not apologizing and then showing embarrassment. This smile is out of excessive pride. This is ego. I have a high need for significance. And by the way, I bet you he would probably bet on himself that he's going to get away with this. That's how much arrogance I feel is coming through here on the stand today.
So when we see him looking to the side, we're seeing him look backwards, but we're seeing him look this way. That is where, from what I understand, the jurors are seated. So he is looking directly at the jurors. What do you think the jurors are probably thinking in this moment?
I think it is fair, and we do see this in murder trials and in cases where we should glance over at the jury, not like we saw Amber Heard do in this same exact courtroom with this same exact judge. I was in that courtroom with the Johnny Depp trial. Amber Heard, did this really big fake acting and directed every comment to the jurors. He's not directing all his comments to the jurors, but he's certainly looking over there, probably trying to figure out what do they think about him. I'm curious. I am thinking about going over there tomorrow because I want to see how they're relating and what they think about what he's saying. I think the jurors are going to be smart enough to know that this is not a man who is devastated that the mother of his daughter has been slaughtered in her own home. Like, we're not seeing that. I mean, I don't even know them, and I can evoke emotion just by thinking about how devastating this is. We're not seeing it. And they're going to look for, is this guy, is this man, Brendan, is he repentful? Is he devastated? Is he gutted? We're not seeing it. Why? He can't allow the emotions to get in because his prefrontal cortex, the higher thinking brain, is saying, I'm running the show here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I'm curious, I would have thought we would have seen some emotion from him, some crying at least, because we did see that crying on the stand. Are you surprised that, it was only 45 minutes or so that he was on the stand, but are you surprised that he's not showing any emotion?
I am, and we talked about this a couple of days ago, or last week before the big snowstorm here, is you had asked me, do I think that his lawyer might coach him to cry a little bit? And I said, that would surprise me if he said to cry, but be authentic and be in the moment.
Okay.
I'm not surprised that I'm not seeing crying here. I would have thought he would give it a shot, and we're not done yet, so maybe tomorrow we'll see some fake crying. But here's the deal. He's smart enough to know, I did look it up when we left, the IRS trains at the same place I trained.
Okay.
I'm retired ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms investigator, at FLETC, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center over in Glencoe, Georgia. I love FLETC, shout out to the FLETC people. So he's trained at FLETC for sure as an IRS agent, which means he's smart enough to know sadness is very hard to fake, and you get people like me and other people like me, right, that can spot fake sadness like this, because the inner eyebrows pull together and up in sadness, which we did not see with Juliana, the au pair, and it's a hard one to fake. So it doesn't surprise me he's not trying it yet. We'll see what tomorrow will bring. But here's the thing: brain remembers violence, and when your brain remembers violence without empathy, that comes across as pure evil.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see, it seems like John Carroll is going through a timeline sort of, and following that timeline of, he's only entered the portion where he's talking about that day. He has just arrived at that day, and where we left off with John Carroll, having him up there on the stand, he was talking about that morning, and specifically some of the details about where Brendan went that morning. It was his birthday, how he went to McDonald's, and all these little details. So I'm curious to see if once we get into the nitty-gritty of what actually happened, because Brendan has not denied being there, obviously, and he has not denied shooting Joseph Ryan, but he claims it was self-defense. But Juliana testified to some very triggering things, talking about things like saying that Brendan picked up her blood and dripped it on Joseph Ryan. So how do you have that conversation and those visuals in your mind and not react? And I mean, we're reacting, right? Just the words. I do want to play one last clip for you, and it's again about the plan. If we could just play that for you, and so you could take a listen.
Was there any plan for how something would happen with Juliana on February 24th?
There was no plan with Juliana on February 24th. As far as I knew, Juliana was going to be going to the zoo and Christine had just taken off from work, and I understood that she was going to be home, but I didn't know anything else. At that point, I was more concerned with my day of what I had to do at my job.
Yeah, and just for some context there, Brendan had previously said that he had a big undercover case that day. It was also his birthday. He had stopped for breakfast at McDonald's. But, when you're watching that, we saw a lot of the prosecutor, that was the prosecutor, Jenny Sands, kind of reacting to him up there on the stand. I'd love to hear your analysis of her in that moment, if you're able, but also Brendan. So we can start with whoever you prefer.
Okay, great. Well, I kind of missed her because I was writing
we'll
notes.
play it again
Here's why thank you. Here's why I was writing, Katie, and you at home. He said, we didn't have a plan, no plan at that time. She put her chin up, which is, and then is pulling in her lips. But that chin up, it's as if I'm saying, okay, I can handle this. It's a sign of confidence. And sometimes it can spill over into arrogance. But no plan. My day, he stops. He stops. This is very suspicious. These are called start-stop sentences. And they're this break in rhythm as people are talking. That day I thought I was, and they turn and they pivot and they get out of where they're talking. So this is very suspicious of and indicative of someone who is being deceptive. These start-stop sentences. A person who's telling the truth might have to think about it and go back to the actual memory, but they're going to talk in a complete sentence. We see this a lot with start-stop sentences because it's like a period or a comma, and then it's like taking us in a different direction, right? So it's the brain's way. Our brain doesn't want us to lie. So when we start to lie, Our brain will do start-stop sentences. Our brain will do cognitive dissonance, where I might smile at an inappropriate time. So I'm supposed to be acting sad here, but I'm smiling. Now I've got two competing thoughts in my brain called cognitive dissonance, and this is where I think the jury will pick up on it. They might not know the fancy word, but they're going to say, this is out of alignment with a man who just lost his wife, was slaughtered, was stabbed numerous times in her throat, and we're believing that it was likely you. And we're seeing none of that. We're not seeing any of that sadness. So these start-stop sentences, I would say, are the biggest hotspot in that clip.
All right, thank you so much, Janine Driver, body language expert, former ATF. Thank you for being here. Thank you for breaking some of this down. We will put this obviously on our website, WUSA9.com. Now, Annie, you and I will be back live with you at 9:45 tomorrow morning here on WUSA 9 Plus ahead of the trial, where we do expect Brendan Banfield to be back up on the stand.